Somewhere in France, 1944. Late evening. The rain falls without sound on the roof of the barn. The men are asleep, or pretending to be. The fire in the corner has gone out, leaving only the smell of wet wood and gun oil. Private Thomas Reed sits against the wall, helmet off, paper on his knees. He's been carrying that sheet of stationery since England, folded, creased, never used. The ink bottle rattles in his pocket when he moves. He told himself he'd write when things got quieter. They never did. Outside, artillery murmurs in the distance, a heartbeat that never stops. Each boom rolls across the fields like the voice of something ancient. The cows are gone, the trees stripped of leaves. The war has turned everything into shadows. Thomas uncaps the pen, hesitates. He stares at the blank paper for a long time. Then he begins. My dearest Anna. The pen scratches softly. I don't know if this letter will reach you. I don't even know where we are exactly. Just somewhere in France, somewhere wet. The fields look like Ohio after the harvest, if you ignore the tanks. He pauses, looks around the room. His squad is scattered across the hay like discarded puppets. Sergeant Miller snores through a busted nose. Young Carter clutches his rifle even in sleep. Reed smiles faintly. They're kids, he writes. Most of them don't even shave yet. But they fight like they've been old forever. He listens to the rain again. Each drop sounds like a memory. He dips the pen once more. I thought I'd be braver. I thought when the time came, I'd feel like a hero from those newsreels. But when the shells start, I don't think of flags. I think of your hands, your voice, the way you used to hum when you cooked. I think of harm. A gust of wind sneaks through the cracks in the wall. The candle flickers, shadows bending over the page like ghosts. Outside, the night flares white, artillery from the ridge. The ground trembles. Men stir, mutter, roll over. Reed keeps writing. Yesterday we lost Jenkins. A mortar hit the trench ahead of us. 1 second he was there telling a joke about baseball. The next there was just silence. It's strange how quickly the world forgets a sound. He stops, staring at the sentence. His hand shakes. He scratches it out, starts again. You'd have liked Jenkins. He reminded me of your brother. He used to talk about his wife every night before bed, how she made lemon pie from scratch. He died smiling. Maybe that means something. The ink runs a little where the drop of rain hits the page. It looks like blood when it spreads. Thomas wipes it with his sleeve. Damn it, he whispers and keeps going. From outside comes a whistle. 2 short, 1 long. The sergeant's signal. Patrol shift. Reed folds the letter carefully, slips it into his breast pocket. He'll finish it later, he tells himself. After patrol. After the next village. After the war. He stands, slides his helmet on, grabs his rifle. The door creaks open, and the rain greets him like an old friend. The air smells of mud and cordite. As he steps into the darkness, he touches his pocket again, just to make sure the letter's still there. It is. He smiles once, a small, tired smile, and walks out into the night. Night-night rain becomes morning fog. The patrol does not find the enemy. It finds a road that used to lead to a town that no longer exists. When the men return to the barn, their boots shine with wet clay and the smell of ditches. Reed wipes his rifle, dries the bolt with his sleeve, and takes the letter from his pocket. The paper is warm from his chest. The words look smaller than he remembers. He dips the pen and writes, "My dearest Anna, the weather cleared for a few hours today. I could see a little farther than the next hedgerow. There's a hill here where, if you stand on your toes, you can almost pretend there aren't trenches between every tree. The grass looks tired, like it's been holding its breath for years." I think about our field in late August, the way the dust lifted behind the tractor, the way you waved from the porch with the sun behind you. I keep that picture in my head when the shells begin. He pauses. The barn door groans. A draft brushes the candle. Carter coughs himself awake and asks what time it is. "Time to sleep," Reed says, and the kid nods as if permission could make it so. Reed writes again. "They say we're making good time. I've learned that in war, good time means we didn't leave too many behind. I don't put numbers in these pages because numbers feel obscene out here. Every number has a face." He does not write about the farm cart they passed on patrol, flipped in a ditch. The shape under the blanket too small to be anything but what it was. He does not write about the German boy whose hands shook so hard he couldn't lift his rifle, who dropped it and ran and was faster than guilt. He does not write about the way Sergeant Miller looked at the mud after that, like the ground had started speaking truths no one wanted to hear. Instead, he writes this. "I still have that foolish habit you laughed at, counting in my head. I count fences, steps, clouds, anything with an edge. I counted last night between the shells. 16, 19, 22. The space between them is the only place a man can breathe. I count and think of you shelling peas on the stoop, the peppers drying on the string in the kitchen, the clock that clicks too loudly on the mantel. Funny what the heart keeps." Outside, a truck rattles by with its lights hooded. Men shout softly and lift crates, stamped with places that feel imaginary now. Cleveland, Kansas City, San Diego. The war tastes of home, written in block letters on boxes that will be empty by nightfall. Reed blots the page and starts a fresh one. We share things here. Matches, stories, photographs we pretend not to study. Hill keeps a picture of his girl tucked inside his helmet liner. He shows it when the sky is kind. "Her name is Miriam," he says. He always says her name like a prayer that expects no answer. Carter doesn't have a picture. He says photographers never came to his part of West Virginia. So we tell him ours. He borrows our proof. He hears footsteps in the loft above, straw shifting. The horses are long gone, but the barn remembers them. Everything remembers something else here. "I wanted to tell you I'm not afraid," he writes. "But fear is honest in a way I never learned to be. It sits beside me when I clean the rifle. When I sharpen the bayonet I pray I'll never need. But fear isn't always a coward's thing. Sometimes it's the rope that keeps you from walking straight into the dark without a lamp." He looks at his hands, mud in the lines of his knuckles, a thin cut across the thumb from yesterday's wire. He remembers the first time he fixed the fence on their property, how the staple shot sideways and bit his skin, how Anna had laughed and said, "You'll make a soldier yet." He smiles at the old joke and shakes his head at the present answer. Carter drops from the loft and pads over, blanket over his shoulders like a cape too thin to be royal. "Writing home?" he asks. "Trying, Reed." "Trying," Reed says. Carter looks at the paper as if letters might rearrange themselves into safety if he stares hard enough. "I can't think of what to say to Ma. Everything I think of sounds like a lie or a sin." "Tell her you're eating," Reed says. "Tell her you sleep. Those are the bravest sentences we have." Carter nods solemnly, as if awarded a secret. He shuffles back to the straw. Reed adds one line. "Tell Sarah I still owe her a nickel for the cherry pie contest. I plan to pay my debts." He signs it there, almost. The pen hovers. He cannot bring himself to finish with, "Love, Thomas." It feels like putting a period on a promise. He leaves the space open and lets the ink dry in the air. The battalion moves at noon. The road south is still more water than earth. They pass an orchard stripped bare by hunger and shellfire, trunks like ribs, fruit fallen and turned to mud. A woman in a blue dress stands in a doorway with a bucket and watches them without expression. The men tip their helmets. She doesn't move. When they're past, Reed glances back and sees her lift the bucket and pour out water on the step, as if to wash the war off her threshold. At the crossroads, a signpost leans like a drunk. The names are all wrong or scratched. Miller asks a map for permission the road does not give, then shrugs and follows the line of least resistance. A sunken lane choked with hedges that rise like walls of a green cathedral. Sound dies there. Footsteps are heresy. Halfway down, a shot cracks, then another. Hill dives. Reed feels the air move near his cheek and throws himself into the ditch. Carter screams once and stops when someone clamps a hand over his mouth. They listen. Nothing but leaves arguing with the wind. "Left bank," Miller whispers. Two men go. A grenade trades places with silence. The answer is ragged. One burst, a yell, branches applauding a body that falls through them. The lane gives back its breath slowly. They move again, smaller by one. No one speaks for an hour. At the far end of the lane they enter a field where cows chew among craters as if hunger can negotiate any treaty. Reed watches one nose the edge of a shell hole and pull back, offended by the flavor of the century. They bivouac in the shell of a schoolhouse whose blackboard still bears a lesson about the rivers of France. A river has run through the roof all winter. The chalk is a watercolor of geography and rain. The desks wear dust like sweaters. On one, someone has carved initials with a knife and circled them with a heart. Reed sits in the back and takes out the letter again. Because where else can the hand go when the heart is put behind walls? "Anna," he writes, "do you remember the day the lemonade fermented and we drank it anyway and pretended we were sailors? Hill claimed salt air lived in the bubbles. If I ever taste salt here, it's from the earth. The sea is days away, they say, though sometimes the wind sounds like it's trying to teach us waves." He stops, listens. Far off, thunder that is not weather. Closer, a spoon rattling in a mess tin like a moth in a jar. Closer still, his own breath. The only proof he has that he is, for the moment, allowed to continue. "There are things I don't write," he adds in small letters, as if secrets prefer to be quiet, even on paper. "I don't write about the way men look when they learn they are mortal. I don't write about the dreams that come even when you don't sleep. I don't write about how quickly a prayer becomes a habit, and how stubbornly a habit becomes a prayer. If these omissions make me a liar, then may my lies be the kind that spare you." In the doorway, a French boy the age of the desk carvings appears, hair the color of straw, eyes already older than Reed's. He holds up an apple, wrinkled, small, holy. Reed takes it, splits it with his bayonet, hands half back. They eat without language. When the boy goes, Reed wraps the seeds in a scrap of paper and tucks them with the letter. He tells himself he will plant them when. Evening lays its hand on the ruined school and calls it a day. The platoon rotates watches. Reed draws second. He sits by the door with his rifle across his knees and the letter under his palm, as if paper were a talisman against what can be counted and what cannot. On his watch, a fox crosses the yard delicately, as if afraid to make noise in a place where the noise quota has been met for a generation. It stops, looks at him, decides he is a statue, and moves on. Reed smiles at the mercy of being mistaken for something harmless. When Hill wakes him at midnight to take the fox's part and sleep, Reed tucks the letter back into his pocket, where the skin is warm and the heartbeat loud. He lies down on the floor between two desks and watches a slice of sky through the broken roof. A star is there, unlikely, precisely where he left it the night before when he had thought it gone. He thinks of the verse Anna likes, something about the maker of the Pleiades and Orion, and decides it fits even when he cannot. He dreams of home, the way a man near drowning dreams of breath. In the dream, the porch light is on, and the screen door sticks the way it always has. He pushes and laughs and says, "I'll fix that tomorrow." And in the dream she says, "You always say that." And in the dream he answers, "This time I mean it." Morning comes in grey cords of rain. Orders arrive with it, wrapped in the damp authority of someone else's handwriting. Move east, take the ridge, relieve the unit that hasn't been relieved in too long. They shoulder packs, adjust straps that have rubbed their names into their bones, and go. At the edge of the schoolyard, Reed stops and returns to the blackboard. He finds a stub of chalk on the floor, damp but obedient, and writes in a corner where the rain can't reach. Anna. Then, beneath it, home. He underlines them once, hard enough to snap the chalk. Hill watches from the door and does not comment because some sacraments prefer witnesses who keep their hat on. They march. The road lifts gently, the kind of climb a farmer wouldn't notice behind a mule. Soldiers notice every inch that turns breath into currency. Halfway up, artillery starts again. 3 shells, like the knock of a drunk at a locked door. Then a pause that lasts long enough for hope to take a step toward the handle. The 4th shell lands left of the column, throws dirt like a wedding rice that kills. Someone cries out. Someone else says the name of God as if scolding a child. The ridge is a ragged line of rock with bushes pretending to be brave. They take it because no one else is there to claim it, and because gravity can be bullied if men decide to stand taller than their fear for a few minutes at a time. On the far side, a valley opens like a sigh, filled with fog, hedges, and a road that is both destination and threat. They dig in. The earth is wet enough to welcome the shovel. Reed makes a hole that would shame his father if this were planting, and make him proud because it is not. He sits in it, boots at the angle Winter taught him back in Ohio, and takes out the letter one more time. The page has softened at the folds. The ink has the blurred patience of words that plan to outlast weather. He adds a last paragraph. If this finds you, know that I carried you into every field and out of every ditch. Know that when the shells stopped, I listened for your voice before I checked my own hands. Know that the world is uglier than I imagined and kinder in small corners than I deserve. If I do not come back, plant the seeds you'll find with this. Plant them by the kitchen window. Let them be apples the color of September. Tell whoever eats them that they came from a letter I wrote when I still believed paper could hold a man together. He signs it this time. All my love, Thomas. He folds it closed and writes her name on the outside. He kisses the crease, because men do foolish things in holes in the earth, and call it sanity. Then he tucks it into the waterproof pouch the quartermaster swore would survive a flood, and laughs quietly at the courage of a pouch. Carter slides into the foxhole beside him with the solemnity of a son taking his father's chair. "What did you write?" he asks. "Everything," Reed says, and then, to be honest, almost. They sit with their helmets just touching, like bells that will not ring until someone says when. Across the valley, shapes move. Blurred men with blurred orders. Someone on their side whispers coordinates to a radio that pretends it can persuade thunder. The first rounds go long, the second short, the third just right. The valley acquires new weather. Reed closes his eyes and hears a porch swing complain, few thousand miles away. He opens them and watches the line of the world redraw itself with smoke. He does not know what he will write in the next letter, if there will be one, or if the next letter will be the same one carried by a different hand. He knows only this: the page in his pocket weighs more than his rifle, and is the only weight he will never set down. When the order comes to move, he stands. The letter rides with his heartbeat. He takes one step, then another, and the day begins to count. The ridge holds through the night. The fog curls low around the foxholes like a blanket no one asked for. Every few minutes, artillery mutters somewhere in the dark. Not close enough to kill, not far enough to forget. The men call it the ghost knocking, the sound of war reminding them it hasn't gone home yet. Thomas Reed can't sleep. The ground beneath him breathes slow and heavy, like something alive. Carter snores softly beside him, a kid's rhythm, fragile, full of dreams that war hasn't yet stolen. Thomas pulls out his letter again. The paper smells faintly of gun oil and apples. He smooths it out on his knee. The ink is dry. The words stare back at him, quiet, patient, almost holy. He doesn't add anything new, just reads it. He mouths each line, as if saying it again could make it more true. "If this finds you, know that I carried you into every field." The sound of his own voice surprises him. It sounds older, smaller. He laughs once, dry, then folds the letter again and presses it to his chest. "Still here," he whispers. "Still trying." The fear. At dawn, frost covers everything. Rifles, helmets, the boots left outside the holes. It's the kind of cold that feels personal, the kind that slides under the skin like regret. When the sun finally rises, it looks tired too. Sergeant Miller crawls over from the next foxhole, chewing a piece of stale bread. "Command says we hold another day," he mutters. Thomas nods. "What's left to hold?" Miller shrugs. "Whatever's still standing, I guess." They share the bread. No one talks much anymore. Words cost energy, and energy is a luxury. Across the valley, distant figures move in the mist, not close enough to shoot, not far enough to ignore. Someone fires anyway. The bullet hits nothing. The echo hits everyone. By noon, the radio crackles with half words and static. Reinforcements, maybe tomorrow, hold. Nobody believes it, but hope, like fear, is a habit. The men clean their rifles, rewrap their feet, write letters they might never send. Paper is the only thing that listens without talking back. The unsent letters. That night, after the shelling, the barn burns. Not their barn, another one down the hill. Flames crawl up the wooden ribs and twist into the sky. The men watch it burn from the ridge. No one says a word. The fire is beautiful in a way that feels wrong. Thomas pulls another sheet of paper from his pack, the last one he has. He doesn't start with, "My dearest Anna." He just starts. It's strange how quiet it gets after everything breaks. You'd think the world would be louder with so much gone, but it isn't. It just exhales. He stops. The sound of boots in mud approaches, Hill returning from the forward post. His silhouette looks smaller tonight. "They hit the line east of here," Hill says. "Half our boys didn't make it." Miller curses softly, lights a cigarette, hands it to Hill. They smoke in silence. The glow of the ember makes ghosts of their faces. Thomas looks back at the page. "Anna," he writes, "if I come home, I don't want parades or speeches. I just want to sit on the porch and listen to the crickets. I want to hear something that doesn't want me dead." He folds it, places it with the first. 2 letters now. 2 pieces of truth he's not brave enough to send. It begins after midnight. The kind of bombardment that sounds like the sky tearing open. Shells fall in rows, deliberate, patient. The ridge explodes in fire and dirt. Men shout names, radios die mid-sentence. The ground shakes so violently that foxholes collapse like graves closing early. Thomas grabs his rifle, the letters pressed flat under his jacket. "Get to the trees!" Miller screams. They run. The world turns red, then white, then nothing. Thomas dives behind a fallen log. Shrapnel cuts the air above his head. A man screams nearby, a sound so raw it stops time. Thomas looks up just long enough to see Carter on the ground, blood pouring from his shoulder, eyes wide and terrified. He crawls to him, dragging his pack, ignoring the shells. "Stay with me, kid." Carter's lips move. No sound. His hand gropes for something. Not help. Not life. The letter in Thomas's pocket slips free, caught in the wind. It flutters away, glowing orange in the light of fire. Thomas watches it rise, spinning, burning, and vanish into the night. His hands shake, not from cold this time. He pulls Carter close. "You'll be fine," he lies. "You'll go home. You'll write your ma." Carter blinks once, twice, and then not again. The ridge goes quiet. Morning that shouldn't exist. By sunrise, it's over. The fog smells of smoke and blood. The birds have stopped singing. What's left of the platoon sits in the mud, eyes empty. They count who's missing. Then they stop counting because numbers are crueler than silence. Thomas walks to what's left of the schoolhouse. It's gone. Just a wall and a chimney. The blackboard lies face down in the dirt. He kneels beside it, wipes the soot with his sleeve and finds the chalk marks still faintly visible beneath the ash. Anna. Home. He laughs once. That small, broken sound that doesn't know if it's joy or grief. Then he cries quietly, the way men do when no one's watching. He sits there for a long time. He takes out the second letter, the one that survived. He unfolds it, smooths it flat, reads the last line aloud. "Tell whoever eats them that they came from a letter I wrote when I still believed paper could hold a man together." He smiles through tears. "It did," he whispers. "It still does." He folds the letter again, presses it under a loose stone by the wall, not buried, just hidden. waiting. Then he stands, slings his rifle, and walks east toward the next hill, the next order, the next version of survival. Behind him, the wind lifts a corner of the page. The word Anna shimmers once in the sun before the dust takes it. France, February 1945. The snow has covered the ridge where Thomas Reed once sat, and the wind no longer smells of cordite. The front has moved east. The war is nearly done with this place. But war leaves behind what men forget to carry: helmets, boots, promises, ghosts, and paper. The squad that replaces the old unit calls themselves the Lucky Eighth, though luck is never what keeps men alive. They dig shallow holes where deeper ones already exist. Corporal Anders finds the stone first. He's looking for dry ground to set a kettle on when he notices the edge of folded paper beneath it. He pulls it free, stiff, mud-stained, but whole. Across the top, a name in smudged ink: Anna Reed. Somebody's letter, he says. The others glance, shrug. Letters belong to the living. This one is too quiet. That night, Anders reads it by lantern light, the snow reflecting just enough glow to make the ink shimmer. He reads the first lines aloud. "If this finds you, know that I carried you into every field and out of every ditch." No one moves. The fire cracks softly. When he's done, he folds it again and tucks it into his breast pocket without comment. In the morning, he writes a note to his commander asking permission to send it home with the mail convoy. It takes 3 weeks for the letter to make it out of France, another 2 across the Atlantic. By the time it reaches Ohio, the war in Europe is almost over. Anna Reed, April 1945. The mail truck stops in front of a farmhouse surrounded by wet fields and thawing snow. A woman steps onto the porch, wiping her hands on her apron. "Mrs. Reed?" "Yes?" "Got something for you." The postman hesitates. He's delivered 100 telegrams like this. None ever feel right. But this isn't yellow paper. It's an envelope, creased, stained, hand-addressed in a shaky script. Anna takes it with both hands. She knows the handwriting before she even looks. Her knees almost give out. She sits on the porch steps, the wood damp beneath her. She doesn't open it right away. She just stares at it, tracing the lines of his name, the smudge of mud that might be a fingerprint. Then, slowly, she breaks the seal. The first sentence comes like breath returning after years underwater. "My dearest Anna." She reads it once in silence, then again aloud, as if hearing his voice through the paper. Every word feels alive. The jokes, the longing, the quiet courage. When she reaches the last line, "Tell whoever eats them that they came from a letter I wrote when I still believed paper could hold a man together." Her hands tremble so badly she has to set it down. She looks out over the fields. Snowmelt glitters on the furrows. In the distance, the apple trees they planted together stand bare, waiting. She stands, goes to the shed, finds a tin of seeds, small, hard, forgotten. Then she walks to the window by the kitchen, where the light is softest and the soil is still dark and wet. She digs with her fingers and presses each seed into the ground one by one, whispering, "For you, Thomas." Weeks pass. Spring comes, slow and stubborn. The radio announces that Germany has surrendered. The whole town celebrates, bells, flags, laughter spilling down Main Street. Anna listens from her porch but does not join them. She holds the letter in her lap. It's become part of her now. The weight, the smell, the quiet. She reads it each night before bed, the way some people say prayers. She knows every sentence by heart, but she reads anyway, because the act of reading is a way of remembering. Sometimes she talks to him, softly, as if he was sitting beside her. "You always said you'd write more when it got quiet," she says. "You kept your word." By late summer, the first green apples appear on the branches by the window. Small, imperfect, but alive. She picks one, holds it to her nose and smiles. It smells like the letters he wrote. In the fall of 1946, a military truck pulls up to the Reed farm. Two men in uniform step out, older, grayer, carrying the kind of silence that only soldiers understand. One of them introduces himself. "Sergeant Miller, ma'am. I served with your husband." The other, Hill, carries a small box wrapped in cloth. He sets it gently on the porch. "We found this when we came through after the ridge," Miller says. "Thought it belonged home." Anna opens it carefully. Inside, Thomas's helmet, dented and clean. His dog tags. A small leather pouch. Inside the pouch, a handful of apple seeds. She covers her mouth with her hand. He remembered. Hill nods. "He said they were from France, from a boy he met. Said you'd know what to do with them." "I do," Anna whispers. She invites them in. They drink coffee at the kitchen table. Miller tells her about the barn, the letters, the way Thomas carried them through every march, every fight. "He never complained," Miller says. "He just kept writing. Said it helped him breathe." Hill adds, "Said the same thing once, that words weigh less than fear." When they leave, Anna gives them each an apple from the tree. "He planted it," she says, "in his way. The legacy years pass. The war becomes history, the photos fade, but the apple tree grows. Children play under it, climb its branches, pick its fruit. Anna grows old, but every spring she still writes a letter of her own, not to send, but to remember. She writes about the weather, the harvest, the way the light hits the hills at dusk. She keeps them all in a box by the window, the same window where the first seeds grew. When she dies, the letters remain. One of her grandchildren finds them years later. Among them, a folded, faded page that begins with, "My dearest Anna." He reads it, not understanding all of it, but feeling something older than language. He plants a new apple tree beside the first, because some stories deserve roots. Ohio, 1972. Morning light spills through the windows of a small rural schoolhouse. Outside, the apple trees sway gently in the wind, their branches heavy with fruit. Inside, a history teacher named Mrs. Carter stands before her class of 12-year-olds, holding a yellowed piece of paper sealed between glass. She says softly, "This was written by a man named Private Thomas Reed. He was a soldier in the Second World War. This letter was found in France and sent home after the fighting ended." She pauses, her voice carrying a respect usually reserved for prayer. His wife, Anna Reed, planted the apple trees you can see outside the window, from seeds he sent her in this very envelope. The children listen. The world they know has no trenches, no gas lamps, no ration books. but the story still finds them. The weight of a life reduced to words that never faded. The memory that grew. Outside, one of the trees stands taller than the rest, wide, strong, its bark rough with time. Carved into the trunk, half hidden by age, are two names, Thomas plus Anna. No one remembers who carved them, or when. Maybe it was Anna herself, or maybe someone else who understood what those letters meant. Each spring, the first blossoms on that tree open earlier than all the others. White, soft, impossibly bright. The old folks in town call it the soldier's tree. Every Memorial Day, someone ties a small ribbon around its trunk. Sometimes red, sometimes white, sometimes both. No one is told to do it. It just happens. Beneath the tree, the grass grows softer. Children play there, climbing the branches, biting into apples they don't know carry a history older than their parents. The fruit tastes ordinary to them, but every bite is part of a story once written in mud and blood. The museum. In 1985, a small museum opens in the nearest town. One corner is dedicated to local veterans. Photographs, medals, telegrams, and, in the center, a framed letter written in careful cursive. If this finds you, know that I carried you into every field and out of every ditch. The ink has faded to brown. The edges are cracked, but the words are whole. Beneath it sits a plaque. Private Thomas Reed, 1918 to 1945. Killed in action, France. Letter recovered and delivered by fellow soldiers. His wife, Anna, planted the first reed apple tree in 1945. Visitors stop and stare at the letter longer than at any medal. A veteran in a wheelchair whispers to his grandson. He wasn't famous, but he wrote it down. That's how you stay alive. The Reporter. In 1994, on the 50th anniversary of D-Day, a journalist visits the Reed farm. The apple trees are still there, gnarled and majestic. He finds Anna's granddaughter, a quiet woman named Margaret, pruning branches near the fence. They say this tree remembers, he says, smiling. Margaret wipes her hands on her jeans. It does. It remembers everything. She leads him to the biggest tree, the one with the carved names. This was my grandparents, she says. Every year we pick the apples, make pies, and send one to the local Veterans Hall, just like Grandma did. She looks up at the branches. It's strange, isn't it? Something that started in a battlefield still gives fruit. The journalist nods, writes his notes, and asks if she still has the letter. She smiles. Of course. She walks back to the house and returns with a small wooden frame. The letter inside is faint now, the paper almost translucent. We keep it here, she says, because it still smells like him. He doesn't understand what she means, not really, but he writes it down anyway. The Legacy. Time passes again. The old generation fades. New names, new wars, new headlines. But the apple trees remain. The roots dig deeper each year, drawing life from the same soil where words once took seed. In the 2000s, a storm knocks down part of the oldest tree. The town gathers to clear it away. The trunk splits open near the base, and inside, protected by layers of wood, they find something. A small pouch of leather, dry and intact. Inside the pouch, 3 more apple seeds. and a folded scrap of paper. Blank, except for a single word pressed into the page by the ghost of a pen. Home. They place the pouch in the museum next to the letter. Now there are two artifacts, one that spoke and one that listened. The present. A young filmmaker stands in the same museum, camera in hand, capturing footage for a documentary called Letters from the War That Never Ended. He films the letter, the plaque, the pouch, and the photographs. When he finishes, he walks outside, past the apple trees now heavy with autumn fruit. He picks one, bites it, and tastes something he can't describe. A sweetness that feels like memory. He looks up and says softly, to no one and everyone, "Some people build monuments of stone. Others plant them." The return of the woods. As the sun sets, the wind moves through the branches, whispering between the leaves. It sounds like the rustle of paper, the quiet scratch of pen on page. And if you listen closely, really listen, you can almost hear a voice. "My dearest Anna." The echo fades, but the feeling stays. A warmth that has crossed oceans and decades just to be heard. Epilogue. The letter that never meant to be found became a seed. The seed became a tree. The tree became a story, and the story became proof that love, when written honestly, outlives the hands that wrote it. Every spring when the blossoms open and the air smells of new rain and old soil, the town gathers under the soldier's tree. They don't recite prayers or speeches, they just listen, because some memories bloom quietly.